There is one side of US that I like. They say that it doesn't matter who you are, your deeds do matter, they say. So I don't want to dwell upon my identity, but I would like to open up the session by making a couple of remarks. First and foremost, setting up institutions in a society is highly easy. Setting up institutions probably corresponds to only 25% of the job. And I have experienced this in the development agencies. Mr. Ahmet Tık was accompanying me in these programs, and we set up the institutions with him, and it was easy to set up the institutions. However, it is difficult to create a spirit within these institutions. The development agencies in Turkey are good-willed institutions. Well, the institutions are tools themselves. They are not the goals per se. Mr. Professor Daron Acemoğlu and his friends have conducted a study, and they have found out that neither the geography nor the richness of the mines, but the functioning of the institutions do affect the wealth of a country. From this perspective, drawing on their findings, I believe development agencies are of utmost importance, despite their wrongdoings and failures. It is upon us to address the gaps in these institutions and contribute to the development of Turkey in the upcoming period. We do have 5 experts in here. They are the general secretaries of development agencies, and they are all very much experienced. I guess you have had an experience at least 5 years, right? Yes, 5 years. Okay, they have become experts because from time to time I talk to Mahmut and I tell them, well, you do have a gap in the sense that you believe you are all experts. However, for someone to be expert, he or she needs to have worked on it for at least 10,000 hours. If there is a cadre made up of experts, then if your title is an expert, you feel like you are an expert. However, your titles do not matter. For instance, I saw an article in recent times, and it says the fact that you hold a BA license, the fact that you hold BA does not mean that you are an expert, it says. I will give you 5 minutes, and please elaborate on your experience in this round. And in the second round, we will continue with your suggestions to further improve the development agencies. Mustafa, could you please share your experience with us? I'd like to thank Mr. Moderator. I know that you hold a grasp over the agencies. I'd like to extend my thanks to each and every one of you. You have made it here, though it's still early. We have a history of 10 years. And these are some new structures. There are some examples both in Europe and in some other countries. They contribute to the development of the country. In Turkey, when we look back, development agencies are very much foregrounded with some of their capabilities. When it comes to skilled professionals, there are 26 development agencies in Turkey, and I believe we are quite strong in rural area. However, I do agree with you in the sense that the fact that we hire experts, the fact that we hire people who are entitled experts does not mean that they are experts or seniors. It's not true. You can't become a senior overnight. No. So what we have to do is that we hire people who are university graduates, but once they get adapted to the development agencies, once they become experts, then we should start calling them experts. Regional plans have come to the fore with the establishment of development agencies. As the Eastern Marmara Development Agency, we have prepared 2 developmental plans or regional plans. One covered the previous period before 2013, and now we are abiding by the plan that we prepared covering 2014 to 2020. Now we have started to discuss the term development. The local people do have opinions with regard to development, and local administrations and the chambers of commerce do contribute to Turkey's development with the regional development plans. Moreover, we aim to contribute to the national development plans as well. When it comes to operation, we have tackled operational issues as well. The number of the investors, entrepreneurs in our region are announced to local markets and international markets, and we also help them exhibit their products in international platforms. I believe development agencies do contribute to the entrepreneurs and innovators in this sense. It's not limited to industry only. There is this tourism and agriculture that we are involved in. We lie at the heart of industry. That's why we attach huge importance on industrial exhibitions and tourism in Bolu and Yalova. We do have a design in an attempt to materialize our goals. We have a couple of goals that we serve, and I would like to elaborate on them. First and foremost, we would like to become a region in which people could live and which could be habitable. Secondly, we would like to learn our lessons. So we have these goals to serve. We have prepared our regional plans accordingly. What do we mean by habitability? Habitability is about living in a better region and taking some measures with regards to natural disasters, social inclusion, competitive regional, making us a competitive regional space, and contributing to high added value technology and further improving the business atmosphere and turning ourselves into a learning region is highly valuable to us. Accordingly, we develop strategy and we aim to increase the contribution of skilled people to employment and take ownership of regional development. What was the name of the region? East Marmara. Where does it cover? Kocaeli, Sakarya, Bolu, Düzce, Yalova. So based on your 5-year experience, what have you found out? Yes, this is what I will go into, and then I will wrap it up. 295 research and information documents have been prepared by us. With financial support, we have materialized 380 projects, and we have materialized 150 projects, and we have supported some coordinated projects, and 19 million euro we have acquired out of European funds, and we have materialized more than 10 projects. We have trained people. We have a training center, and we have trained almost 65,000 people. And we have trained 29,000 people in the field of human resources. We have joined 54 exhibitions. Some of them were local, some were international. In terms of tourism, we have promoted 5 cities, and we have shot the videos of these cities, these provinces, to promote them. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for making it here. I'd like to extend my thanks to each and every one of you. I am in charge of Southern Marmara. We are all development agencies of Marmara region. We are neighboring regions. I'm also a neighbor to the Traces. We have promoted our agencies. I won't go into that. But as for our strategic roadmap, we have come up with the basic tenet. There is this catalyst in chemistry. It quickens the reaction. And just like that, we aim to speed up the development plans of the region, and we do use some tools accordingly. First and foremost, we would like to set up a project culture within the region at large, because as Turkey, I think we are lagging behind in terms of the projects, and I believe we do serve such a mission. Looking back into the past, previously, the projects were all about construction. However, nowadays, when we say project, the project is about multi-elements to us. In this sense, all the shareholders and stakeholders should adopt a different perspective towards projects. Secondly comes the investments. We should be able to attract investors and promote our region. Through the development agencies, we can succeed in that, and I think through our coordination centers, we can succeed in promoting our region. Thirdly, institutional capacity is another issue that we have to focus on. We always talk about the lack of education in Turkey. Unfortunately, in terms of personnel, in terms of HR, our institutions do have some hurdles. Well, if we have hurdles, then it will have a repercussion on the development of the country as well. In this sense, we need technical support and some other mechanisms to further strengthen ourselves. In our regions, we should be able to further develop the regional capacities. I have a comment. It's inaudible because the people who have to benefit from the agencies, do you think the people who could benefit from your deeds do grasp what you are doing? Are there any problems in terms of perception? From a positive perspective, we address our target audience because we're able to communicate what we're doing, and we are setting up the dialogue in the right way. However, when we go to the rural areas, probably they do not understand what we are doing. They believe that the agencies are the institutions that offer support merely and that distribute funds merely. However, the agencies are more than that. You have touched upon a very good point. I think it is incumbent upon us to manage the perception surrounding the agencies. From your own experience, my observation is that when it comes to making projects, There's this misinformation surrounding this topic in Turkey. So what do you do to eliminate the hurdles? First and foremost comes education. All throughout the year, for the last 10 years, we have been holding trainings. All the agencies have been preparing such projects, and we do teach the techniques of the job to the people. With regard to changing the perspective of people, we have the mechanism of preparing controlled or guided projects. You do have an institution. Let's say that first you address a need or a gap, and then you try to focus on a project that would address the need. Since the agency guides the related institution, the process is very well organized. That's why we would like to increase our cooperation and adopt the right project mentality. Thank you. Well, Fatih is in charge of Istanbul. Istanbul is a huge region. What about your area? What does the development agency do in this region? First and foremost, I would like to extend my thanks to Marmara Municipalities Union. As Marmara Development Agencies, we have been afforded with the opportunity to address to this distinguished audience. Istanbul is a huge city. There are huge institutions within Istanbul. As Istanbul Development Agency, we are in constant contact with our shareholders and stakeholders, and we try to address the gaps and try to be functional in addressing the needs of our people. I will very briefly mention about the regional plan. In 2010, from 2010 to 2013, we have prepared the first development plans, and then came the 10th development plan, and in coordination with them, we have prepared our regional plans. In our regional plans, we do take economic, social, spatial access, and there are 23 prioritized areas. We have come up with 57 strategies and 466 goals. In preparing this plan, inclusion was of utmost importance to us. We would like to work hand in hand with the NGOs, academicians, and the other related institutions. We would like to create high added value and come up with an innovative economy. And one of the most important issues is to develop the innovative ecosystem of Istanbul. That was the topic covered in the first development plan as well. And innovation has been addressed as one of the most important areas in contributing to the development of Istanbul. Of course, monetary funding would be of utmost importance in tackling innovation. In 2010, information-oriented innovation program has been initiated, and in recent times we have come to call the program Innovative Istanbul. We have some guided projects as well. In total, we support a total number of 321 projects, and the monetary resources that we have allocated to them is more than 300,000 liras. We support a total number of 809 projects, and we allocate 400 million liras to them. And in total, it corresponds to 600,000 liras. There are two foregrounded areas. First and foremost, we would like to meet the infrastructure standards, infrastructure gaps of Istanbul. The laboratories, R&D centers, excellence centers, test and certification centers are what we need. So that's why we have tried to address this need. And secondly, innovation, cooperation areas and clustering offices, technology transfer offices should be established. We have some projects accordingly. Entrepreneurship is a field that we have supported since 2010 up until 2016. It was not a priority to us. There was this technology supported innovative program, and for the youth we could also come up with some innovative plans. Under the creative industries, we had creative entrepreneurship projects. In this sense, we try to transfer the know-how of academia to the industry. Setting up technology transfer offices and increasing the corporate capacity would be of utmost importance to us. Incubation centers, pre-incubation centers, and entrepreneurship centers were supported by us. Secondly, startup companies would be scaled up by us, and we have initiated some programs to offer speed to the startups. And last but not least, we initiated some global cooperation and global research projects for the entrepreneurs. Moreover, we have also supported academic entrepreneurship, human entrepreneurship, and social entrepreneurship. We have supported more than 60 projects, and we have allocated 50 million liras to them. Next comes creative industries. I mean, in Istanbul, we do compete with London, New York, and Paris. In this sense, innovative industries should contribute to the local development of Istanbul. In this sense, we focus on design. In Istanbul, low added value production should change. And how can we increase the added value? First, it would be through innovation, and secondly, it could be through design, industrial design. So we have supported industrial design, and we have supported 84 projects and allocated them more than 400,000 liras. Next comes youth. Youth do matter to us. Development is not only related to economic development. We should adopt an integrated and holistic approach. In this sense, for 4 periods, we have supported youth, and we have allocated more than 100 million liras to the projects that address youth. First, we would like to further develop the innovative culture of the children, and we would like to raise them for the future's professions. And secondly, we would like to come up with projects that would address the needs of the disadvantaged children. We have some projects that could address the needs of the disabled children and the migrant children, especially the children who have migrated from Syria. And there are also some projects that could integrate the children who have been abused. In this sense, there are 3 supporting mechanisms: innovation, entrepreneurship, and creative industries. Those are the 3 pillars that we take into consideration, and the youth could be supported by making use of these 3 pillars, and we could raise them accordingly. Thank you. You have offered a very detailed perspective. I'm from the Aegean region. I'm not from the Black Sea region. Thank you. Now Mahmut will talk about his own region. Let's see what is beyond the water, the Traces Development Agency. So we meet from time to time, but since I am old, he doesn't call me that much. So the floor is yours, Mahmut.
Thank you very much. My name is Mahmut Şahin. I'm the Secretary General of Trace Development Agency. When we say Trace, we understand what's beyond the water. Tekirdağ, Kırklareli, and Edirne provinces constitute of the region. And since we've been established, we have been trying to make sure that the Trace region grows, develops, and I will talk about a couple of issues here. Almost all of us, as the development agencies, do the same things or the similar things. There are certain support mechanisms, subsidies, and some other source of support mechanisms. But since our establishment as the development agencies, maybe for the first time we started doing the plannings from this center through certain instructions from the center to the other areas. So the demands are collected from the local grounds, and the demands are expressed, and we have a common sense for it. So we tell to the development agencies to bring together things, the experts, all the materials available with our colleagues. Some of our colleagues are here with us, some experts are here with us. So with them, we are trying to do things on the local grounds together in a united fashion. So I believe that this was a breaking point for Turkey, and maybe for the first time the actors started coming together to use common sense, and also about the planning of it. As my friends stated, there are big budgets, different instruments are used. If necessary, the development agencies should answer those needs. We say, so there is this breaking point, not only telling people what to do, but also following things from the center is what we needed to do. And it's not only about the money, but it's also about the authority and also the staff, and also sharing certain problems, certain issues, so that in other provinces of the country we would have some colleagues to work with, and we should run things together. This is a good example of participatory policies. So if needed, some suggestions would be taken, and if needed, some other source of help would be taken to move people from the local stages to the regional ones. I think this is one of the advantages. And they also had some plans locally, and they said to people that everyone should do and make their plans, come up with their suggestions, concentrate on the support mechanisms, and everyone in the city should act on it, this agency said. And this way the plans would be shared with the centers, and all the means at hand would be used. I believe the agencies, the development agencies, helped a lot about that. Distinguished participants, distinguished colleagues, I would like to welcome you. I'm representing the Istanbul, Bilecik cities. I'm the Secretary General, and I would like to also touch upon what my colleagues stated before. I will try to explain this by giving some concrete examples. If we consider that our country is like a family, and also the agencies like the children of that family, Then I believe we can see that there were some understanding. The problems of the regions were known, but still locally there were some problems identified. And when you look at them all, you will see that they almost share the same features. So they're like human beings themselves, but there are details, different details, like a human body. The hair color, the eye color, the height, the weight would be different for every human being. And this goes the same for families. Some families, in some families, for example, some people have talents for arts, while some others have talents for other things. So I believe that these agencies are like the new children of those regions, because generally the last children of the family are almost maybe the smarter and I can say that we were born in 2006, and now our agency is like a child to us, to nurture. And there are institutions, and those institutions are like the members of the family. So there were some concerns about what would happen to the agencies, how they should be structured, and the boards uh, were comprised of people, figures, experienced figures of the region, so they could also know how to nurture that child. So an interaction, if you will. And in the past 10 years, I believe this child of this family, according to my observations, has gained his own special spot. This is how life is. We need to be open to change. As I said before, at the provincial levels, we had some implementation units affiliated and reporting to the ministries, but a common brain which would analyze the problems at the micro levels and combine them with the macro levels of analyses. So I believe Turkey has gained much about that. Recently, the ministries that we are reporting to and the other relevant ministries, with the strong cooperation we had with them, also had very good results. For example, there were sectoral meetings conducted within the framework of the development plans, and the opinions of the parties, relevant parties at the provincial levels, were collected and submitted to and reported to the ministries. We're living in the information age. We're talking about data mining, so it's not only what's under the ground, but also what's over it, and we need structures to analyze all those pieces of data, and the stakeholders should develop a much better model. So we also incrementally have moved forward to address the needs of our cities, and we had the support, the financial support mechanisms, and these were what the business world was looking for. I mean, high quality human resources. Hopefully in this second session I can talk about some other subjects, so this is all I had to say for this is first part. Thank you. So you see that our agencies within their own conditions and the opportunities offered by the country are trying their best. But for the future of the country, at least in my mind, I have some issues clarified. To be a society of high awareness, you have to have three conditions. The first thing is to protect your life. Every living being has that instinct. And the second thing is to do with the living beings that do live in communities, like ants. And it's about harmony with the society. So this is the second stage. And the third third condition, is to make forecasts and simulations for the future. And our agencies have about a know-how of 10 years. So we will discuss what should we do so that we will have futures secured, and how we will make our agencies more functional. So I should start maybe from here. What do you think we should do? Can you tell us that in 5 minutes? It's not like pinpointing certain specific problems, but we should talk about the issue generally so that we can move our agencies forward. The coordination and the structures of the agencies are important here. So what we can do here is to increase the level of participation and own up to everyone in the region and coordinate, so such a function can be of use, because in public services we need to indeed get rid of polarities and effectively run our activities, I believe. So we also need to accelerate the development process itself, and we need to make our expenditures for the right things. It's important to turn data into analysis. So what should we do so that the agencies are effective? Because in our day we need to know that the agencies also turn their local values into concrete data. To evaluate the concrete data, well, we at least need a center where we collect the data. We should further strengthen that, and also we need to have the human resources to process that data. We need to be strong about human resources, and we need to be well qualified. Normally, there's this reality. If you are a graduate of a good university, you would probably choose the big mega cities because the life standards are higher generally. But after the agencies are established, then we have had a good pool. And I believe that pool created so far should be well evaluated by the institutions. Then what do you think the state should do so that they are more effective in their relations with the environment? So in our age of information, it's important to make sure how we turn knowledge into real usability. And also we need some, of course, mental transformation for it. We need to have institutional cooperation. We are trying our best to be a catalyzer, especially the young people. When we have a look at the world, not only the people who have recently graduated from universities have such activities, but the local partners are also important. We need to take the local plans into consideration. Also, this is one other expectation we have. We also have a genetics code of our country. Actually, the approaches of the local administrators, of course, is very crucial, but we should listen to the needs of the region and come up with the interfaces which will help the region generally. What about you? Can you share your opinion, your perspective with us? The agencies, yes, so far they have had great work and they continue with some of their work. We have some limitations in our budgets too. In the new period, it's necessary to work with new budgets with higher effects, higher coefficients, if you will. For example, the management, the governance consultancy, like activities are encouraged by our ministry. The other day we had a great workshop, and it's also important to render the family companies sustainable, because in Turkey and in the world, many companies are SMEs and most of them are family companies. But the number of family companies in our country, unfortunately, is very low. And this is what we have figured out in our site studies. And we have made decisions that we should concentrate on the subject more in our field studies. And also the capacity building is another thing we have to concentrate. We also have initiated another study to bring together the professionals, RD professionals, make sure that they share their knowledge with other agencies. It was also important for us to bring the RD professionals together and integrate them, so the companies will be provided with consultancy services, and we want to, of course, have the academy on our side. Investment to the human resources will be one of the aims of all of our agencies. We have also a financial program, and there's a level of awareness already. And if there are certain parties who are willing to get financial support from us, they need to meet two criteria. We said that they should have a partnership with a trade chamber for us to have our partnership, and also they should be entrepreneurs for 3 enterprises. So education is maybe not in good terms with production all the time, and what we tried to do was to bring different parties together. So in our education system, we have children, our students, also engaged in their internship programs, and the trade chambers also were involved to the process and said that we have different needs now, and we should have other subjects introduced into the curriculum. So human resources, we said we want to invest in human resources, and we believe that it will be proving fruitful. So Marmara Municipalities Union. Normally, this program we're in now should also acknowledge the fact that all the local parties should be involved into the process. We have a lot of support from the ministries, so the support funded by the development agencies are becoming, I believe, more and more effective. This is what I have observed myself personally. What about your hopes and recommendations, Mahmut Bey?
We are all living in a world full of hopes, I believe. There is no reason why our hopes should be dashed. We are better than yesterday, and I hope we will be better tomorrow. I do totally believe in it, and there is no reason why we shouldn't further improve ourselves. We have people, we have information, and we can easily work on it. From time to time, we talk to you, and we say that there are different conditions surrounding each and every era. And in this era, it is highly important to access information and the right data. Today, what matters is information. Accessing right information, right data is more important than having money nowadays. But together with that, we need the analytics that can easily work on this data. In this sense, I believe the development agencies are not only institutions that distribute funds. They have to be institutions that make policy, that access right information in their own regions. And if they cannot reach information, then they should be able to acquire local data and work on this data with its own experts and make it useful for the local administrations in the related region, be them muhtars, NGOs, or the business world representatives. In this sense, we should be able to make policies and generate data and prepare ourselves for tomorrow's world. We should not only work on the data that comes from Turkey. We all speak English, French, or German. We should be able to get the international data and compare ourselves against the Middle East and Europe. In this sense, we will contribute to the NGOs, business world, and the public administrations. It's easy to access funds. If you do have the right project, then people will help you get the right funding. However, we need the policies to implement. I believe the other NGOs do not have enough human capacity who can understand the world in the right way, and it is incumbent upon us to support them. First and foremost, we should convert ourselves into think tank agencies which can make the right policies. If we can access the right data, if we can work on the data and offer the right policies to the related institutions, and if we do have the required human resources in place, I believe in the long run we will contribute to Turkey's development as well as regional development. We've been discussing about the Turkish data. To what extent is information right in Turkey? Well, the data that we have in place might not be the right data. If this is the case, then we should go to the field, we should get the right data, we should work on the data and come up with policies. Because in today's world, we will have limited resources. As noted by Mustafa, with limited resources, we should be able to have long-term goals, which will have an exponential impact. You are the big brother, right? In terms of the size and in terms of the region. Well, I'm the least experienced one amongst all of you. In terms of the development agencies, I think we are the luckiest one. We don't have monetary difficulties, we do have huge capacity, and there are some institutions who have accumulated know-how. I would like to make a couple of comments with regard to the conditions. $257 million is Istanbul's economy, and Istanbul is the leader in each and every industry. So we are a small institution in the sense that there are bigger institutions than us in Istanbul, and it is highly difficult for us to intervene in the problematic areas. In this sense, we have been trying to address SMEs in the last 5 years, but rather than supporting the SMEs, we have tried to define ourselves as an interface between the industry and the people. So we have worked hand in hand with the institutions in an attempt to further increase their capacity. In smaller cities, I know the development agencies work in close relationship with the SMEs, but in Istanbul, it's not the case. On the other hand, we have had a close relationship with the universities. Of course, it has to do with the fact that there are 63 universities in Istanbul, and most of them are very well grounded, and when compared against industries, they have a huge capacity to generate projects. As agencies, therefore, we have prioritized the local needs and we feed on the local capacity, and then we move towards the national and global level. Of course, each and every region has a different capacity. I believe what the agencies have to do in the upcoming period is to bridge the gap between the local and global. And we have to shape our policies accordingly. Any questions so far? Mike, please. We have 2 questions. Could you please give us a mic? Hello everyone, Müslüm Yıldız, Kocaeli University. I'm an MA student in Kocaeli University. My question is a general one, and there is no one single addressee. Mustafa has already elaborated on local agencies and the connection of local agencies with the development agencies, and Ismail's comments were of utmost importance. We start with local plans and move towards the global, you say. My question is as follows. To what extent are the strategical plans of the municipalities in line with the national plans? Or do you think there can be a bottom-up approach? I have a question which is in relation to the previous one. Halil Ünlü. I got confused. The definition of region, classically we know that there is a state planning institution and they are also in charge of regional plans, and there's this construction planning institution, and there are municipalities, so metropolitan planning needs are in place. There are environmental plans in the provinces, there are city councils and province special administrations, so there are many institutions in place. However, when it comes to planning, there is no connection between different institutions. For instance, what are the criteria of the development agencies in defining their region? Marmara region we talk about, but how do we get organized? In Marmara region, it looks like there is this local administration of Marmara region. So in parentheses, the plans of the state planning institution are considered as laws, and they have the capacity to
Yani imar planları
apply sanctions. My question is, how can we align the regional plans with the national plans? It's a very important question, I believe. And as far as I see, the development agencies do support some projects in terms of planning the projects. They train people. Are these regional plans the ones that were previously, or what about the gap between economic social plans and the construction plans? Are there some activities in this sense? So my question is a very general one. Thank you. I got it. There is this de facto case and the case that we would like to have. There are these national plans. And there are regional plans. However, in Turkey, there are no mechanisms in place that watch these plans. Maybe the people who become victims of construction plans might resort to the courts. In Turkey, the local plans need to abide by the national plans. But in Turkey, there are no hierarchies in place. The municipalities do prepare their own strategic plans and construction plans, and they have to abide by the regional plans in doing so, because there is this hierarchy, right? However, it's not the case in real life because there is no observation mechanism in place. I hope by elaborating on such points in such meetings, there will be a hierarchy between plans and coordination between plans, and an observation mechanism will be set up. The plans prepared by the agencies, unfortunately, are not taken into consideration. The municipalities do ask our opinion in preparing their plans. In parentheses, since the regional plans are not abiding, then there are some people who do not take it into consideration, and I think that's a huge gap in the planning system. Thank you. Any additional remarks? As you mentioned, what I would like to tell you is that there is this micro-planning in place. The micro-analysis does not befit macro-analysis all the time. We have served in Ankara as well. And In Ankara, when you make a model, the examples that you choose are limited. But in here, on the regional level, we can take the neighborhoods and towns into consideration. We hold numerous meetings, and the towns are connected to one another in the economic sense and geographical sense. And there are some sub-regions, and they analyze the requirements, and of course it doesn't have to do with the literature, but there are some local shareholders, including the muhtars. Moreover, the regional plans would be approved by the Prime Minister. We had the previous system in place back then, and the Prime Minister would approve these plans, and the plans would be finalized accordingly. What matters in here is that in 1960s, the State Planning Agency was established for the very first time, but now this understanding of planning institution is changing. So we have to abide by digitalization and further scatter digitalization in each and every institution. Now, a smartphone helps us in gathering data. As the public institutions, we do not make use of it, but starting with US, the developed countries do gather data through the smartphones, right? And we do join such research on a voluntary basis. I think the decision mechanisms that should be in place must help us to gather data in such an easy manner. Your question was about the classification. There is this classification system in place, NUCS as we call it. We call it NUCS. It's an international classification system. And the most important criteria is geographical closeness in the system and economic development level. To give an example, there's this Bursa, Eskişehir, Bilecik, and the share of them out of national income is on an equal level, and we have to revise our plans. I don't think we are on the same level as it was, that was a decade ago. In terms of alignment, and in terms of international classifications, we do align with the international standards. There are some questions that come from electronic platform. Can we add on top of it? I would like to answer the question. Okay. As you mentioned, 1/100 construction plan, let's say, or with the plans of small cities and metropolitan cities, we differ ourselves. We make some soft plans, so to speak. We do not abide by the construction plans on a one-to-one basis. Rather than that, the industry over there and all the shareholders over there are transformed by us through our plans. And all the investment that is to be made there is taken into consideration in an effort to enlighten this city. So we do not take all the efforts into consideration. Rather than that, we try to address the needs of the human beings, the society at large, and we try to transform the institutions. That's why we have a soft approach, so to speak. And if necessary, we make use of the arguments that we have, and we try to come up with solutions. And we also determine who the shareholders should be. This is a policy. And in line with this policy, the municipalities, muhtars, all the related DMs to abide by this policy and act accordingly. So this is the recommendation that we make to. And as for the business world, we also make recommendations to them and come up with policies. But we do not focus on a very well-defined construction plan. No, it's not a construction plan that we focus on. I have an additional comment. 1 sec, please. 1 second, please. I will give you the floor. 1 second, please. 1 second. We have 2 questions. One is in the Board of Development Agencies. There are mayors and there are general secretaries. So is it difficult to make decisions? The second question is as follows. What about the funding in development agencies? And can we get financial support? The development agencies, in the end, make use of the resources of this country, right? They do support the policies and projects. So they offer an endorsing mechanism, right? But since they support the projects, these projects should be in line with the city plans, right? Or else it means that they have to act in coordination with the city councils. And in order to do so, maybe there should be a regional plan in place that would act as a law. There is this Istanbul metropolitan city, and there is a ferry which takes hundreds of people to Bandırma. So the deeds of the metropolitan city. Please ask your question, don't make any comments. Okay, I will be concluding my words. In line with the regional strategies, if the construction plans are not made in line with the regional strategies, then it will be a waste of the resources, right? Even though you support the regions through projects, you have to do it in line with the law. So what is your suggestion? The definition of the regions should be remade and the planning hierarchy should be determined, and we will not waste any resources then. Can we please see the question? So my question is the fact that there are governors in the boards and mayors in the boards, would it create any problems since there are mayors and governors in the boards, was the question. So it's not a problematic case. Normally mayor is a local administrator, right? And he's an elected person, and the governor is an appointed administrator. We also have a businessman and TSO, Turkish Standards Institution representatives. In this sense, all the shareholders and stakeholders of the province do come together. That's why the board works in a coordinated manner. Of course, we might go through some challenges, but it has to do with the nature of the job, right? Because we have to come up with a common sense. And in doing so, we have to reach a consensus. In the end, we do reach a consensus. I believe such problems might arise in all the boards, but in the end, it is to the benefit of the province. Since it has nothing to do with the personal interest, since it is something concerning the province, if no one takes it personal, then in the end we will reach a consensus and we will abide by the common sense, and the most beneficial solution will be implemented for the related region or the city. In this sense, I have never ever experienced challenges. And I haven't seen any blockages or hurdles that have prevented our functioning. Of course, we might have some problems, but in the end, we try to solve these problems through common sense. This is what we have experienced so far. The public administrations, NGOs, universities, we consider them all as non-profit organizations. If we make use of voluntary endorsing program, first we make a call to them and we abide by the guides. The related institution should fulfill the required forms and make resort to us. There is also this guided mechanism, guided support mechanism. The agency is more active in such guided support mechanisms, and it is like a role model to us. We address bigger projects with these guided projects, and the agency works hand in hand with the public institution accordingly. We have materialized and supported 7 guided projects so far. In this case, the institution visits us and tell us about their project, and we evaluate the project. Based on our experience, we can tell that it takes 8 to 9 months to develop a guided project. And through these guided projects, we work hand in hand with the NGOs, universities, and the other related institutions. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I'd like to extend my thanks to the audience, because I think they are the most important customers. And I would like to extend my thanks to the panelists. But before closing this session, I have a couple of remarks to make. I like to make a quotation from Mevlana. It is great to go somewhere every day. It is great to flow. Yesterday is bygone, and now it is time to talk about new stuff, to be innovative. In Turkey, we always discuss about the past, unfortunately. We talk about the past experiences, the past deeds, and the rest. We should not get fixated on the past. World is ever changing. We don't have enough time to dig our heads into the past. You cannot heat today's clothes with yesterday's sun, Süleyman Demirel says. So now it is time to look into the future through our own eyes. I have 2 comments to make. First and foremost, I examined 3 researches made by 3 different researchers. When Turkey makes a plan, when Turkey abides by a plan, it grows by 9%. And whenever there is no plan in place, then it grows by 5%. That is why we need the development agencies in place, because the development agencies do make use of the local resources, and they should be used in a more effective manner. They should be more functional. In setting up the agencies, we were idealists, to tell you the truth. We did not want to have the governors as the board members, to tell you the truth. I think we should have more businessmen. And what we have to do is that too much pragmatism, too much populism is not good for Turkey. Probably you don't know about the fact that I have visited almost all the villages of Turkey, and what I've seen is that the rural culture is a big hurdle to us. We should definitely give up on the rural culture, which is totally unplanned. We should definitely have better functioning institutions in place. No matter which book you read, no matter which development plan you read, development has 3 pillars. 1, you should have clear information. Secondly, you should coordinate very effectively. 3, you should be focused. From this perspective, the biggest problem of Turkey is the fact that feasibility reports are not made. Based on the information offered by the institutions, you can't make feasibility reports. I think Turkey should generate inventories. We are in lack of inventories in Turkey. Information turns into value in all the countries. So as long as we do not offer the real inventories, our people will have difficulties. That is why we should have the real information in place. I do extend my thanks to each and every one of you, including the organizers, because the more we talk about such issues, the better it'll be. Let me close this session with a poem. Can Yücel has a great poem. The biggest distance is not China, it's not Africa, it's not India, and it's not the stars. We are far away from each other if we do not understand one another, he says. So we have to understand one another. Since we live in such a geography, it is highly important that we do understand one another. I have an observation, I should share it with you. We hold such meetings, people are highly excited. It's on a level of 90%. They are less excited when they go out, and when they sleep, they are even less and less excited. I hope it won't be the case in this meeting. I hope you will remember all our remarks. Thank you.